Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of About Abroad, where it's my job to introduce you to people who have built amazing lives for themselves in various foreign corners of the globe. We're talking with expats and thought leaders about moving abroad, remote work, visas, and all the fun and practical knowledge that you need to know to follow in their footsteps. If you've ever dreamed of making a life for yourself overseas, maybe working remotely or embracing long-term travel, retiring or studying abroad, or even just taking a peek inside life beyond your borders, you've landed in the right place. This episode is brought to you in partnership with Wanderers Wealth. One of the greatest challenges and also one of the greatest opportunities for digital nomads, expats, people who are building businesses abroad is in the world of international taxes. It's not the most fun subject to talk about, but it's one of the most important and confusing that I hear about all the time from those of you in the audience. So I've had Kathy on the show before. She's the CEO of Wanderers Wealth. And afterwards, I became a customer of hers because her global tax strategy design course is incredible. It literally walks you through all the steps that you need to take in order to take advantage of the international tax system that is set up to actually help those of us that are living this international lifestyle. So it's highly recommended. You can find the link in the show notes for her global tax strategy design course. Check it out and let me know what you think. My guest today is Hannah Dixon. She is the CEO and founder at Digital Nomad Kit and someone I've wanted to have on the show for quite a long time. So I was very, very happy that she decided to join me today. She is a true global citizen. She holds multiple passports and residencies around the world and a full-time digital nomad. But not just that, she's also trained more than 20,000 other people how to follow in her footsteps and build location-independent businesses for themselves through her virtual assistant program. So she's a wealth of knowledge on all things that we talk about here on this show and someone that I was really excited to get to know and just found to be a really awesome person. Really enjoyed this conversation. She's got so much to share, so much to teach, and also just a lot of fun to talk to. So we had a blast. I hope you enjoy and will help me in welcoming Hannah to About Abroad. It's really funny to me that we're just now meeting, Hannah, because I feel like we kind of know each other already. Like we have a lot of similar friends. We like communicate online and stuff, but this is actually the first time that we've ever like seen each other face to face, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel weird. We've kind of been dancing in the same space for a long time.
It has. It's cool how that works. And I've been a big admirer of your work because I think you fill this void that people are looking for some way to take their skill set and their business on the road with them. And you've obviously educated something like 20,000 different people or something like that. So yeah. I'm pretty excited to learn more. I don't know a ton about your like personal story, so we'll dive into that. I'd love to. I want to check in with you now. Where are you located at the moment?
I'm in Guanajuato in Mexico. How about you?
I am in Germany. I'm in Southwest Germany in a place called Freiburg.
Oh, you're not living there though, right?
No, I'm not. It's weird, like how do we answer this question, right? I am kind of living here. I moved out of my apartment. I've been living in Spain for almost 5 years, and I moved out of my apartment and hopped in a camper van and drove north for the summer, but I'm enjoying it up here. So kind of like keep extending the stay. It was 2 months and then it was 4 months. Now it's 6 months. So I don't know. How long have you been in Mexico?
I've been here I was here most of last year. I got the residency just in April. So however many months that is.
Okay. Nice. Oh, so you've already gotten the residency. Is that a pretty straightforward process in Mexico?
Somewhat. I think it depends on some financial criteria, but yeah, otherwise It was super breezy.
Wow. Okay. That's good to know. Is there like any major bullet points people should know if they're, because I guess in my mind, that would be something that would take like a couple years or I don't know. I have no idea.
So you get temporary residency, it's 4 years, and then you can exchange it for permanent residency. So the temporary one's really easy to get. You can get it in country under some provisions, but generally you'll have to get it out of country in any consulate. And there are some consulates that are a little bit easier. I went to Kansas City, which is completely random for me, but it was a really cool city, but it was really breezy there. So you can just kind of figure out which ones are breezier and then kind of go from there. Yeah, it was one interview, then arrive and got the card.
Some countries will blow your mind with that kind of stuff, right? Where you're like, you don't necessarily associate Mexico with like, okay, things are probably just going to go smooth and easy, but then they blow your mind with some quick bureaucratic or lack of bureaucracy process, and there you are.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And you don't have a very strong Kansas City accent either, so that's not where you're from.
No, I grew up in the UK, but I have UK and US citizenship. But I haven't been there in 14 years, so I don't really identify much with the UK stuff anymore.
Okay. And in the US, do you?
I have family there. I visit every year, and I actually have my business there and everything. But no, I'm not really. I haven't grown up there. It's different.
I think it's interesting. We're in this world now where like it matters a whole lot less like where you're from. I meet people all the time who you ask that question, and it's like, where do we start? Like let's pull out them. I mean, it's part of the reason why I started this podcast, because it would be so interesting to hear people try to answer that question and the age of global citizens.
And where are you from originally?
I grew up in the US in North Carolina, and so that's where I call home. Most recently, Asheville, North Carolina, which is a very cool little town in the mountains there. But yeah, I've been in Spain for the last like almost 5 years, which is crazy. Like I showed up thinking I was going to stay there for 3 months, and then like I had a year visa, and I thought 3 to 12 months and then be back. But I'm enjoying Germany right now. Been an awesome change of pace. I love like the Mediterranean lifestyle, but up here it's like green forests and mountains, and the Alps are right in your backyard, and it's just been a super nice way to pass the summer.
That's wonderful and really encouraging, because I'm moving to Germany in December and I'm a little bit nervous, but hearing you say that makes me feel better.
Oh, that's awesome. Where are you moving to?
Close to Heidelberg, so not far from you.
Oh, yeah, that's super close. God, have you been there before? It's gorgeous.
I have. It's amazing. Like, it was one of my favorite places I've been to in Europe.
And that's saying a lot, because I know you've traveled quite a bit, but I would agree. It's just like, it's one of I don't know if you can call it a hidden gem, because I know people know about it, but it's not like a top tier travel destination, I wouldn't say either.
No, I think really it's like a big university town, isn't it? There's a lot of students there. But I think for like the remote work, digital nomad space, no, it's still a hidden gem.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of trying to find more of those places that like, I'm loving the digital nomad hotspots that are popping up. Like Bali's been that place for a long time, and there's places like Tulum and others, but and now Madeira's on that list, and there's some places like in Croatia. But I'm like hoping as the world goes more remote and there's more digital nomads, like more of these places are going to pop up. Like maybe a Heidelberg could be just an awesome place, because some of these places, like like they're amazing destinations to go visit, but you lack a little bit of the community. And that's what's missing, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think there'll definitely be more of them. There's every day there's a new place.
Yeah, there definitely is. So it's a big world. I mean, obviously you could, you're totally location independent. Why Heidelberg?
My wife is German, and we met in Portugal, actually. We got married in Austria. Then we've been traveling since, and we've visited her family a few times. I have been looking to move to Europe for a while. As a Brit, I lost my, European citizenship with Brexit. So I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, it would be nice to have access to Europe again. Her grandparents are getting a little bit older. She's very close to them. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time. We were going to do the Thai elite visa, but, that's 5-10 years, depending on which one we chose. So I was like, look, your grandparents are here now. Why don't we go now? So that's kind of the main decision. But also it's just gorgeous and beautiful, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've got like a real reason, and then like also just the like obvious thing is that it's an amazing place to be. I mean, being in Central Europe has so many benefits for people that like to travel. You can hop on, as you know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but like you can hop on a train and be in one of any 3, 4, 5 countries in a matter of a couple hours or less. Yeah. And if you're into that kind of thing, like I just don't know that there's many places in the world that offer that kind of diversity.
No, and for the price as well. I mean, like my best friend lives in Porto. I've got a flight to visit her already in January for $15. I'm like, we can see each other all the time. It's just like an hour away.
Yeah, exactly. I bought like a €9 ticket to Mallorca one time, like from Valencia to Mallorca. It was like 45-minute flight. But I remember thinking like, is this real? Like this seems fake, like I can go visit this place that to me seems like this incredible tropical destination that I probably never thought I would go see. And it's $9. Really?
Well, you have to be careful with those. I took a flight once. I booked it months in advance. It was €11, I guess, or pounds, from London to Barcelona. Then when the day came, I was like looking for my ticket, because I'm really last minute with that. I'm like, where the hell is my ticket? I'm looking for my emails. I can't find. I'm searching like London, Barcelona. Like, was it EasyJet? Was it Ryanair? And I finally find it, and it was Nottingham to Girona.
Oh, the same thing happened to me.
Really?
Yeah. Sorry, continue. But that's amazing. In the exact same place.
I still took it. I was like, I'm going to take the 4-hour bus to Nottingham. Why not? And it was actually the coolest airport ever. I was like, I won't make that mistake again.
That is really funny. So I had like almost the exact same situation flying to Girona, but I thought I was flying to Barcelona. And it was really funny. Like it was early. I don't want to say early days Ryanair. I don't know how long Ryanair goes back, but this was a good ways back. I think Ryanair's come a long way since then. And at the time on their website, when you booked something, I was going from Venice to Barcelona. So it didn't distinguish between the Venice main airport and the Barcelona main airport. It was like an airport way outside of Venice, which was literally like a hallway. Like there was like there was like a snack machine and like 50 people and one person working there in this like really dodgy area. And I was like, where am I? Anyway, from Venice to Barcelona, but it was really this place way out, like an hour outside of Venice that you had to take a bus to, and Girona, which is like an hour outside of Barcelona. And I didn't figure that out until I was getting on the bus to go to the Venice airport. And I had to separate from I was traveling with my cousin. We had to go our separate ways. And I had to like rush, get on this bus, go an hour outside of Venice, arrived in like no time. Then I arrived to Barcelona, but I'm actually in Girona. I'm like, oh, now I have to get to Barcelona. And I was the only person on this bus that I rode with the bus driver all the way into Barcelona. And yeah, it was such a fiasco. And it was like like everybody having smartphones and stuff. Like I'm sounding like a super old man here. It wasn't like that long ago, but
you're good.
Anyway.
I remember holding physical maps. So
yeah, we've been there and done that a little bit. So that's hilarious. Well, are you excited about the move back to, I'm going to say back to Europe?
Yeah, I'm nervous. Mostly just I know there's going to be a lot of bureaucracy in Germany, but I figure it's Germany. Like there's just going to be steps. There's going to be a lot of them. As long as I hit the criteria, it's going to be fine. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. But otherwise, yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah. It seems like a good place to me. Like I've spent a good bit of time here and never lived here though. I think the bureaucracy is a real thing.
It's been a real turnoff for me, but I'm like, all right, like everything's aligning. Let's do it.
Yeah. And will you miss Mexico though, you think?
Yeah, I'm actually house sitting here. So I've been looking after someone's 5 dogs in this beautiful house up in the mountains for 6 months. Well, it will be 6 months, possibly 8 months. And we told them we were going to come back next year. So really the main thing I'm going to miss is these dogs because that's a long time. I got really attached to them, but it's time to move on. So yes, I'll miss it, but I can always visit.
I saw you have on your website like a house sitting guide that I don't know if you sell it or if it's free, but I saw
free.
that.
It's from friends of mine. So
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I've used like Trusted House Sitters a bit. Is that the platform you go to, or is there any other one?
I haven't used any platforms ever. I kind of approach house sitting like I would finding freelance gigs. Like I'll go into Facebook groups, local Facebook groups, and just promote myself and then get referrals. So I'm really lucky because I became friends with these 2 people that started something called the House Sitting Academy years ago, Nat and Jody, and they're kind of like big voices in that space. So I'm really good friends with them. So I just get all these referrals. So I feel really lucky in that respect. And in this area of Mexico, there is a lot of house sits. You know, you've got San Miguel de Allende, we got Guanajuato here. There's so many retirees here and expats who are looking for help with their animals and homes. So yeah, it's just a good spot for it if you do want to go house sitting.
What do you look in a potential house sit? Because I think the reason I asked that is like some people would say like that literally sounds like the dream. Like you're going to let me come stay in an amazing place for free and just be around animals, which a lot of people really love animals. I'm a dog lover myself. So like, but there's pros and cons with everything. So like, what do you look for in these experiences?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of sits over the years and now I'm very selective. I did one in Thailand where they told us it was like a nice house and stuff, but like the bathroom was like broken and the roof had a hole in it and And then I was like stuck there because the owners were away and I'm like, I've committed to do this. So now I'm just a bit more selected. Like the Wi-Fi needs to be great. It needs to be in a location I actually care about being in. Really nice if there's, a grocery store within reach. Really nice if there's a car available, if it's not walking distance to grocery stores. Those are the main things. And obviously like if it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be like stunning, but like, I have a fantastic view of the whole city here up in the mountains. Some of the nicer ones I've stayed in have had heated swimming pools and, they have a maid come, they have a house cleaner come, they have a house manager, they have pool cleaners, they have gardeners. Literally, you just sit in the house with the dog. That's it.
It sounds like not real sometimes, but it is.
Some of the really nice ones, I'm like, it feels like we should be paying to be here. But yeah, it's really nice. I had one guy actually, he really nice guy here in Mexico. He used to run hotels. He ran hotels all around the world. So he ran his house like a hotel. So I walked in and it was like everything was perfect. Like the towels were like done into like little swans and I was like, oh my God, what a welcome.
Sign me up, man. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. I mean, not all of them are like that. That's, that's very extreme. But this one is kind of like it's like a casual home, but it's huge and it's, it's nice.
Yeah.
So Wi-Fi is the most important.
Yeah, that's huge. I remember seeing one. I was we've used trusted house sitters to have people come stay and take care of our dog. His name's Coda. And it's worked out great. Like I think it's a really good suggestion. As you said, I think if you're going to be in that world, you can like insert yourself kind of as a pro and navigate that space with Facebook groups and stuff like that. But like maybe for a good entry level, somebody just trying to get their foot in the door, get a little bit of experience, Trusted House Sitters is a platform that I've used. So I'll plug that. And it's been great for us. Like we've traveled a lot with Coda, but we don't want to do it. Like we don't want to fly them places. And we've kind of like gotten off of that now at this stage. So it works really well. Like to have somebody just come stay and they get something and usually we've just had really good experiences. Like we stay in touch with them and yeah, it's been really good. And I think I've tried to become I'm not like a very desirable candidate because like I'm like, hey, I'm showing up also with my wolf dog. Is that cool? And not many people are cool with that. But I remember seeing this one that was like an Italian like palace, like literally is like in Tuscany, this giant like villa that was just like insane. And I was thinking they wanted someone for 6 months, like to come back every year for 6 months. And I was like, that sounds amazing.
That's what I'm doing here. It's 6 months. And every year, the couple that live here, they have 6 months in Germany, funnily enough, and 6 months here every year. So yeah, we did partially last year. We did all of this year. And we told them we're doing next year, but we found them a replacement now because actually it's really interesting you're saying this. We just adopted a puppy. So now we're turning into needing sitters instead of being sitters.
That transition is awkward. I will tell you, you're well equipped for it though. So you're going to bring the dog from Mexico to Germany?
Yeah. And we're hoping that's going to be the only long haul flight for her. So, but yeah, I guess similar situation to you. We'll be needing sitters. We'll take her on road trips around Europe. She's really good in the car, but I don't really want to put her on a plane more than is necessary.
Yeah. Is it a big dog or a small dog?
She's going to be absolutely enormous. When I was wanting to get a dog, I was thinking like a little chihuahua or something. No, she landed at our doorstep. She was dumped on our doorstep. So she came into our lives and that's what she is.
Yeah, you can't say no at that point. Well, yeah, I mean, the size matters a lot. Like in this case, like people will say, oh, traveling with a dog is super difficult. It's like, yeah, it is if it's a big dog. If it's not, then it's pretty manageable. The good news is no matter what, it's possible. People do it. Yeah. Well, good luck with that next step of the journey. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. When will you guys arrive here?
December 29th. So just before New Year.
All right. So yeah, you still got some more time.
We still need to get her like chipped and she's not finished all her vaccinations, but she'll be ready by then. So all good.
Cool. Does it seem like a pretty straightforward process to come to place? Like I feel like Germany's probably a place that has all those rules written out clearly, but there's probably a lot of rules.
There's a lot of rules and I'm in a small town here in Mexico and everything needs to be translated into German or English. We need to find someone to do that within 3 days of travel around Christmas. We'll figure it out though. I'm not stressing. We'll figure it out.
That's the weirdest thing about traveling. Like whenever somebody asks me for advice on this, I'm like, the biggest thing you have to keep in mind is there's this weird order of events that has to happen in a certain sequence that changes country to country, and they're very tight time frames. Sometimes like one shot has to be administered and then like a couple days later something else has to be done, and then right before that something else, and they're like, they give you these really tight time frames and can be challenging. I use this service called pettravel.com. It's been really useful. They sell these like pet packets that are just like, I think they cost like $20 or something, but it basically gives you all the details that you need like in order to go from one country to another. So you put in like your origin and your destination and it tells you what you need.
Oh, I'm going to check out pettravel.com.
Yeah, I think it's pettravel.com. I have it bookmarked, so but I think that's the case. But it actually like really saved me a huge headache one time. Like I won't go into the whole story, but basically I almost tried to like take a flight that I wouldn't have been able to land there or they wouldn't have accepted Coda when we arrived, which would have been a disaster, obviously. So anyway, highly recommended. I'm so curious to learn more about your kind of like your story up to creating the business that you're now known for, which I also want to get into. So I don't know how to like do it other than just say like very broadly. Like I would love to hear kind of like where you've come from and how you've arrived to this point in your career and in your life as a digital nomad.
Sure. I have my spiel. We'll do it. The first time I got the sort of travel bug, I was 16 and I was in school still. And I was really close to my art teacher because I was a nerd and I was bullied. So I spent all my lunch times in the art class with her, just talking with her all the time because I didn't like to go out on the playground. So it was just before the summer holidays. It was like 6 weeks over the summer. And she was like, what are you going to do over the summer? And I said, I don't know, maybe get like a grocery store job or something. I don't know. And she was like, why don't you travel? Why don't you go to Europe? And I was like, wait, like, oh yeah, I have a passport and I can do that. And that never crossed my mind. I was like, I'm 16. I can do that in Europe now. So I recruited my best friend. I was like, let's go do like a rail. I think it was Interjet or Interrail or something. I can't remember. But we got some big rail pass and we went around Europe for the summer. Ran out of money, lived on baguettes for like 2 weeks. But it was the best thing ever. And I got home and I was like, I want to travel more. I want to travel a lot more. So I didn't go to university. I ended up leaving school and straight away basically traveling. I didn't have any money at the time. So I was doing workaways, so work exchanges. I was working on farms, bars. The coolest one I ever did, I worked with husky dogs in Austria. So I learned how to do the mushing, which was really cool. I ended up staying there for about 11 months. And then I went back periodically over the next few years. So yeah, I did that kind of stuff. So the food and accommodation was covered. And I worked, 2-4 hours a day. It depended. Some days there was nothing. Some days there was a lot. So I did that for a long time. And I found myself in Italy working on a construction site because I would obviously know about that. And I was actually learning how to plaster. It was fun. We were renovating this 15th century home in Umbria. And I skipped like one whole year of my life. I worked in a fashion company in London before I did that. I landed this really cool job in a fashion company. I don't know how, because I didn't even know what PR meant. It was like a PR company. I was like, I don't know what public relations is, but sure, I can do this.
Not sure what PR stands for, but yeah, sign me up for that job.
I could do it. Yeah. It didn't last long, obviously, but I made all these friends that worked in it was like, high fashion, like Gucci, Valencia, was it Valenciana? Is that what it's called? Or is that the town I live in? I'm very confused. Anyway, fancy brands. Yeah, no, it wasn't the path. But I had these friends that worked in fashion and some of them were in Milan. So while I was at this place, I got an invite to come to Milan and go to this party. So I rock up with my jeans covered in plaster. My shoes were literally bricks of cement. Like you couldn't really see that they were shoes anymore. And I had no money because I'd been traveling like this for so long. So I didn't have money for new clothes. And they were like, what are you going to wear to the party? I guess like what I'm wearing. And it kind of dawned on me at that moment. I had like a moment of shame. And I was like, well, I've really been enjoying my life. It would be nice to be able to buy basic things like a new pair of shoes. So I actually went back to England and thought like, I'll get a job and whatever, do what everyone's been telling me I should be doing for ages. Lucky for me, that was intercepted. I met someone who was working online and I was like, tell me everything you know, because if you work online, that means you can work from anywhere, right? And that's what I want. Like I want to keep traveling. This has become my lifestyle at this point. And I didn't really want to compromise on that. I had no interest in being in the UK anymore. So I learned everything. She was an SEO expert and web developer. And while that was completely over my head, I was like, let me help you. Let me help you like with your client acquisition. Let me help you with social media. We were doing a lot of stuff on Twitter at the time. And so I just started diving in and learning from blogs and YouTube videos and by doing. And turned out that these clients that she had didn't just need websites and SEO. They needed help with their social media. They needed help with their correspondence, their inbox management. And before I knew it, someone reached out to me and was like, actually, she was talking to a client of hers on a call and she said, my virtual assistant, Hannah. And I was like, you're what? Is that what I am?
I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah. I was like, oh, there's a name for what I'm doing. And then I started realizing like there was a name for like the term digital nomads. I was like, that's what I'm doing. Because we were living in Hungary. Me and this person moved to Hungary for a while while we started everything up. And that's pretty much the very, very humble beginnings. I think my first gig was $5 on one of the gig sites. It took me 3 days. And it was an article that was called, I don't remember the exact words, but it was the 26 best cities to raise children in the United States.
26. Yeah, you have to get to 26. 20 wouldn't have been enough.
Exactly. So being very knowledgeable on that topic, it took me 3 days to write. And then I vowed to never write again for $5.
It's funny what you do in the beginning, right? Like the things you'll agree to just to like, you're getting some momentum.
Honestly, that $5, I was like, I just made my first $5 online by myself. This is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta spark the flame. Like somehow it's got to get started, and that's, were you using like Fiverr or Upwork or something like that? Do you know?
Elance maybe?
Yeah, it was Elance. Elance became Upwork or Upwork bought Elance or something, I think.
Oh, did it? I don't even know.
I think, yeah. I remember discovering Elance and thinking like, I was thinking through my career change, like, how do I get into this online world? And Elance popped up to me and I remember just believing that was going to be the answer to my dreams. Like, I'm just going to do odd jobs for people. And I had people telling me like, what? You're going to do stuff for like $10? Like, I don't understand. And I didn't end up going down that path. But anyway, yeah, it opened up a lot of opportunities for a lot of people. But I think that a lot of people still don't know how to navigate this space.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't recommend people using those platforms anymore, but I had my start there and I didn't continue with that. what I ended up doing was actually started getting referrals through basically the company that it was my ex-partner, Valentina, what she was doing. So some of those clients getting referrals through them. And I started a Facebook group actually of my own, because what I was seeing at the time, I wasn't seeing people like me in the online space. I wasn't seeing queer people. I wasn't seeing many women around. So I started a Facebook group because I was like, I want to meet more nomads that like are a bit more aligned. So I started my own Facebook group, and that started growing, and I was telling people about what I was doing in my career. And that's kind of how I fell into teaching, because I got to the point with the VA business that I was earning between $5,000 and $10,000 a month, like 10 on the high end when I was taking projects on, but a steady 5 every month. And that didn't seem to be the norm for a lot of VAs. So people were asking me questions, and I like literally on a whim, I was like, why don't I put just like a little free course together and just see if this lands with people? And I'm still running that free course today. So 7 years later and 20,000 students later, that was my start, and this is where I am. Yeah.
Wow. It's a free course?
It's a free course. There is a paid program as well, but the free program we run every 2 to 4 months, depending on my energy levels. There's no set.
When you're doing something for free, you get to choose the cadence as you like. That's awesome. I didn't know you did that for free. I just assumed. I mean, obviously there's an upgraded version, that people have to pay for, but that's super generous of you. I'm sure it's also a lead generator, but that's really I don't think you have to do that at this stage, but you continue doing it.
I enjoy doing it. I mean, it's 5 days. I think that I wouldn't be doing it if it didn't take, like, I have a really good system in place. Now it's taken me time to do that. I have my own team now. I have a system in place, so it's pretty easy to execute. But yeah, it does get people a lot of results, just the free program. So I really like putting it on, because those who can't afford to move on or work with me still get a lot of results out of it and feel inspired to move forward. So that's important for me to give people access to options like that, because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. It's nice to have just an option,
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for like paying forward what you didn't have early on. I think those of us that have been like kind of living this lifestyle for a long time, you see the opportunities that are available to people today, and this will just continue to be more and more so the case. But you go, I'm genuinely very happy for those people, and I'm kind of also kind of glad that I had to take my lumps along the way and kind of learn how to do it a bit more challenging. That I had to fly from the outside of Venice to the Girona and figure that out, because I learned a lot along the way, and the same is true with work and all these things. Like you were able to learn a lot, and now it's really fun and really fulfilling to kind of pay that back a little bit and show people like, here's how you can do this. And I think it seems like we both get something out of that, which I think is nice.
I mean, this podcast is evidence of that for you. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of us, like a lot of the reason for doing this was kind of created in that, like, how do I do this at scale? Like I can only answer so many emails or LinkedIn messages or whatever and help one person at a time. But then like, when you do something like this, you get to reach thousands of people and deliver the same content. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And 20,000 people you've trained, like that's insane. That is really incredible.
Actually, when I say it, it also scares me. I'm like, wow, that's how many people have actually listened to me. Is what I'm saying important? Is what I'm saying? Like I start questioning,
We're all imposters a little bit, right?
But then I just feel, immensely grateful that people do put their trust in me. So that's also really nice.
We'll be right back to the show after a quick break for a note from our sponsor. This season is brought to you by my good friends over at Insured Nomads. They're the absolute best in the business when it comes to providing health, travel, and medical insurance for nomads, expats, and really just all forms of world travelers. I know insurance is often something that's overlooked when we're fantasizing about traveling the world, but it's absolutely necessity that we address this, because often the policy you have in your home country isn't going to cover you while you're abroad. And it's also a requirement, as a lot of people may not realize, to actually buy private travel or expat insurance, as it's called sometimes, to obtain a visa or even enter certain countries. So fortunately, there are companies like Insured Nomads to help us with this. Not only do they have excellent coverage and great prices, but they're also providing a first-class experience with additional perks and best-in-class technology via their app. It's an amazing experience. I can't recommend it enough. Now, this is a company that was built by world travelers for world travelers. So they know what it's like to find yourself in a difficult medical situation abroad, and they want to keep you from having that same bad experience. So the next time you're planning a trip abroad, whether it's for a week or a lifetime, check out Insured Nomads via the link in the show notes. Hey guys, so many of you write in asking how to support the show best. And if you are listening and made it this far into the episode, then I'm going to presume that perhaps you're one of those people that wants to help. So if that's the case, the best thing you could do right now would be to open up the app that you're currently using to listen to this episode, go to the little arrow thing that allows you to share, select it, and share it to one of your social media networks. That would be a huge, huge help. You can feel free to tag me at DC Warrington, and I'll slap you a virtual high five from wherever I am in the world. Thank you so much for the support. We really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy listening to the rest of this episode. Let's maybe divvy out the two. So like you're at one stage in your career, but your students are at a different stage. So like starting with the students, I guess, like what are some of the core pillars of what you're teaching them, and maybe thinking about it from the standpoint of like somebody listening right now, maybe thinking like, oh, becoming a location independent VA would be pretty sweet. What do I need to know?
Yeah. So I guess some of the foundational principles that we walk through is just identifying what their existing skills are. A lot of people that don't think they have skills that they can bring into the online space if they haven't worked online, but that's completely untrue. There's plenty of things that are really valuable. So we start helping them identify what those skills are, and then we start looking at who might actually buy those skills from, and then how to package them up as a service. So we go through a few exercises. We actually do that in the free program already, so people can take that away and start offering services right away. And then we teach them how to actually go out there and start asking for the work, how to start networking effectively. I don't really teach people to go onto these gig platforms, because I think that while you can have success there, I think that there's more success to have off of those platforms when you're networking effectively with people who are really going to value and not going there to look for the sort of cheapest job sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of strategies. I don't know how deep you want me to go into this, but we basically teach people how to get out there and start talking about their business, because ultimately, I think, and a lot of mindset stuff, because ultimately when you're a VA, there's nobody that's going to give you a certificate and say like, now you can go be a VA. Like you kind of have to give yourself the green light. Like only you can do that. So getting people readied and confident enough to go out there and ask for what they're looking for.
Yeah, that's such a key thing. I think there's so many people. I don't know if I'd be curious to know if you see this, but I'm in my mid 30s and I meet a ton of people. So many of my friends, people very, very close to me. There's a lot of people, the great resignation is real. People are rethinking what they want to do, and global mobility has become a very important factor for a lot of people. But I think so many of them struggle with, what are my skills that are transferable to the digital world? I've been in X job for 10, 15 years, and I don't know, that doesn't translate well to the digital world. I agree with you. I think that's probably mostly false for a lot of people. And it's just discovering what those skills are and then massaging them, I guess. But do you see a lot of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably one of the biggest issues. People come in and say, well, I don't have any experience. And I'm like, you have years of experience. Let's just rejig it a little bit. That's why it's literally day one of the free program is what we focus on, is that, because it is one of the big things, maybe the biggest thing that people come into this concerned about. So yeah, I would agree.
And then what? So once they go through this, what does a day in the life of a VA look like? Because I mean, I guess it can span the spectrum, but what do you see people what type of life do you see people creating once they've gone through this course, or once they've learned to gotten their foot in the door?
Yeah, like you said, the range and the scope is varying massively, but I think it depends on what people really want from their life. I think it's a lifestyle career, so it really can help you sort of manifest that type of life that you want to have. I see people traveling the world who weren't able to travel before. I see people homeschooling their children. I see people being able to take care of their elderly family members who maybe they didn't have the time to do that before. I actually have a few real life examples. I have one student, Amber, she is traveling the world now, speaking on stages, talking about what she does. I have another, Iwana, who is, I've met her in Mexico City. I've met her in Koh Chang in Thailand. I've met her in Europe. She's just traveling the world with her partner and able to do that without worrying about money anymore. I have another one, Indira, who is traveling the world with her autistic son, and she's able to care for him on the road. So I think it really depends on what freedom looks like for that person. I think my highest value is freedom, and what I try to give people is whatever that is for them. If it means staying at home with their family, if it means traveling, if it means having more time, it means going to the gym on a Tuesday morning and not worrying about it. That's what they can do with that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of flexibility with the career. Ultimately, as a VA, you're an independent contractor, which means you're not tied to doing the work on someone else's time or in the way that maybe they want you to do it. So you can kind of have a lot of autonomy within that. So you can kind of design your schedule in a way that gives you a lot of pleasure.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of the idea of a VA, because I'm a big fan of the idea of outsourcing what you're not good at, or what just doesn't come naturally to you, or what drains your energy, anything like that, kind of like reaching to the Tim Ferriss, 4-hour work week week sort of thing. But like just in general, it's been one of the most life-changing things for me in my career, in my personal life, like just hiring somebody who's really good at certain things, producing this podcast, for instance. Like I suck at editing. It'll take me a day to do this where someone else can do it in an hour. And so, just thinking through those things and like being a bit intentional about, is this a good use of my time or not? Would somebody else excel at this, and produce something better? I think we're all better off if we think about those things.
Yeah, totally. And I actually think that, when you are able to outsource the things you're not good at, you can really be better at what you do well. Do you mind if I tell a really short story? Because I think it's relevant.
Yeah, please.
When I was a teenager, I was already really, really bad at math. I'm still really bad at math. It's not my thing. But I actually studied for an exam, my GCSEs in England. And I studied really, really hard. And I still got what we have grades, A, B, C, whatever. But we also have a U, which means ungradable, which means you got nothing right. Like you might as well have not taken the test. So as you can guess, I got a U. And I went home and I said to my mum, like, I actually studied for this. Like I thought I would get like at least a C or a D. And she said something really powerful that stuck with me. And I kind of I think that's maybe even partially the reason I went into the work that I went into with the outsourcing as well. And she said, you don't need to be good at math. That's what other people are there for. That's why other people exist. They're going to be the bankers and the bookkeepers and the accountants, and you're going to do whatever you're going to do. I wasn't really good at math.
It sounds like you figured out your skills pretty nicely eventually.
Yeah. But that phrase just stuck with me. Like, you don't need to be good at math. That's what other people are for. And I think that I've embodied that in everything I do. Like there is someone else who is better aligned for this. And it seems like you're really doing that yourself too with the podcast, for example. So good to hear that.
Yeah. I got some similar advice from like a different angle that I think is interesting. I had a customer that was like in my previous career who was really successful, and it was very common for people in his business to sort of have like a sister company that would sort of feed each other business. Like it was just a nice little flywheel that would make sense for a lot of, it might be like if you owned like a restaurant and like a food distribution company, and it's like, well, I'm just going to use my food distribution company to send the food to my restaurant, and it just makes sense. They're in the same world, but they're two different things. And I asked him one day, it was like other people, it was kind of becoming a trend to see other people doing that sort of thing, his competitors. And he told me, it's hard to be great at everything for everyone. I would rather be really great at what I do. And I thought like he said it more eloquently than I will, but like it was really powerful to me because it reminded me like, don't spread yourself too thin. There's a lot of power in being good at like mastering your craft and not spreading yourself too thin and just honing in on what comes naturally to you. And I think we can be pulled in a lot of different directions these days. We're in like a productivity mindset and efficiency mindset. And it's actually the most productive, efficient thing you can do is pass something that you're not great at to someone who is.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. That's a wonderful story.
Yeah. So I'm very curious, like what types of tasks do you see people do, or what kind of jobs do you see people getting? Like, are they full-time, part-time? Are they hourly, project-based? Are they like heavily involved with a particular client or spread across multiple? Like, I'm trying to get a view for what it looks like, and I know again it can span the spectrum, but just curious to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah. So in terms of tasks, they normally fall under 3 categories. I would say there's like tech, creative, or administration. So under each bucket, there's thousands of things you could do. If you're talking about tech, it could go from coding to automation setup to anything like that. You've got design that can be PDF design, that could be web design, that could be social media graphics, and then administration, of course, inbox management, calendar management, data entry, bookkeeping. The list is endless there as well. But generally, I would say that it's rare to get a full-time job as a VA. It's more likely that you would have a few clients. I always recommend no more than 5 clients. Really, you don't want to have your brain spread too thin, like we were just talking about. So having sort of 2 to 4 is really ideal, but no more than 5. And that sort of bulks the income up. So let's say that you got 5 people paying you $1,000 a month. That's a really nice, healthy income for a lot of people. And I'm going to talk about, what did you say before you said what the days look like?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, maybe I don't even remember either, so don't feel bad. I'm more fascinated by the answers because I'm starting to like put together what the day in the life of the student looks like after they've graduated. And yeah, I mean, I think that paints a good picture.
I guess one of the other things as well is like if you say you have 3 to 5 clients, chunking your time out. So like maybe on a Monday, you only work with client 1. Maybe on a Tuesday, you only work with client 2. Maybe only in a half day on a Wednesday, you go back to client 1 because there's something that needs doing on a Wednesday. So it's really, you can break it up that way as well. So it's really clear for the client when you are available to them. And it's really clear for you what you have to do without your brain having to be like on all these people's businesses all at once. So being really clear around the boundaries about when you're available is something else that a lot of VAs do that I do recommend. But yeah, I'd say that's probably a good sort of overview.
It is. Like your motivation was travel. You and I share this like strong desire to have location independence. It matters to us, and it doesn't matter to everybody, and it matters to people on different levels. But for you and I think like that was kind of my like goal. My purpose was like, I just need to find whatever it is that's going to give me location independence, and I'm willing to make sacrifices in other areas to get that, and that's fine. But I guess that's not the case for all your students. But do you see that as sort of a red thread, like the travel, the location independent, the digital nomad? Is that something you see a good bit?
Yeah, for sure. I think also, I mean, my business is called Digital Nomad Kit, so I tend to attract the people that want to do that and naturally. But sometimes, yeah, like it looks really different. Some people, they don't necessarily want to travel abroad. We have a lot of people in the United States who want to do like RV life and they want to sort of travel in that way. So yeah, but I would say that's definitely the main sort of theme is just location independence and how it actually manifests for them will be different, but having that location independence is really important to them.
Are there any downsides? Like, are there any, like, we don't have to necessarily say horror stories, but like, what are the red flags or the reasons someone may want to filter this out as potentially not a good fit for them?
I think one of the things that people need to recognize is that you do have to deal with your own taxes, your own healthcare, your own bookkeeping, sourcing clients, sales conversations. You wear a lot of hats when you're a virtual assistant. You become a business owner essentially. So if it's something you don't want to do, then that's, obviously a red flag. You might want to go into a remote job instead. But then again, there's also different situations. You could become a VA for an agency where they're actually sourcing the clients for you. But again, you will have to do a lot more paperwork than someone who doesn't have a self-employed gig. That's one thing. I think it depends on the country you're from. I know that some countries are a lot more bureaucratic, a lot more difficult. The taxes are really high for self-employment. That's something to consider. But then again, when you're living in these countries, the type of money that you can get is obviously going to be reflective of that as well. We have students in Sweden, for example, who are able to charge 80 euros an hour, 100 euros an hour because their taxes are 55%. So people know that. So it can be relative. And then obviously just making sure that you have access to a way for people to pay you. We've had students who have had issues, and I absolutely hate this for them, but it's just a reality of the world we live in. They live in some countries where they can't get business bank accounts. They can't accept money from abroad. We have a student in Belize who can only use Western Union, which is not the most attractive for clients. So hopefully that will change as the world is becoming more online and people are more aware of this type of work. But those are things just to consider, like, do you have access to a way for people to pay you? It does actually come up quite a lot.
That's great. Yeah, that's something you tend to take for granted, right? Like, I mean, there's so many tools out there for international money transfer, and but the fact is you have to have a place for that money to be sent, and people from a lot of Western countries will not realize that like that's not possible in a lot of areas of the world.
And we're incredibly privileged to have access just with such ease. So yeah, just something to consider. And I guess another one would be maybe it can be a little bit lonely, I guess, if you're starting something on your own, which again is why if you work with me, you have access to a fantastic community. So, or if, you don't work with me, find some buddies to do some online co-working with, or just check-ins, or find a little mastermind group, because that could be really, really helpful on the journey. You know
what's really cool about your story? I wonder if you reflect on this, but you mentioned kind of in your like childhood, high school, that kind of thing. Like you said, I think you said, I was a nerd. I stayed inside. I didn't want to, like it didn't sound like you really had like your tribe. And I think a lot of people associate leaving, moving abroad, traveling. You hear people all the time, like detractors of it, say like, oh, it's lonely. You'll be all alone. You'll leave your community. And it seems like for so many people that I meet, especially I think for those that didn't have their tribe growing up, like you've really found your tribe in this world, it seems.
That's true. No, I haven't really reflected on that, and I will after this. But yeah, no, you're right. I think I've been very intentional about creating like a meaningful and powerful community around me. And I really tried to facilitate that for others as well. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think we're pretty quick to like dwell on our failures and dwell on the things that, we don't like about ourselves or whatever. And we very rarely like set back and be like, man, this is pretty awesome. Like I stayed inside from the playground with the art teacher because I was afraid, like I didn't have anybody around me. And now I have teaching 20,000 people around the world and living location independent, have communities and teaching people how to create communities. Like came a long way in that regard. And I think it's really awesome.
That's true. And actually, now you're making me reflect even more. I'm actually going to go back to the UK next year to facilitate a class reunion. And I'm like, who would have thought that I would be the one managing that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a growth thing. Like we kind of like stretch and grow throughout these experiences. I mean, it's probably super corny and cliche to say, but like I think travel and spending some time outside your comfort zone can kind of help you find your comfort zone in a way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I would agree with that. How has
Yeah.
that looked for you? Like, do you feel like you found a different type of community, or what's your community situation?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I sort of had like the opposite experience in that I grew up in like a neighborhood with a ton of other kids like my age. I had like a big social circle. I was like pretty extroverted, so I played like a lot of like team sports and did like clubs, and my parents were really like big about having us in activities and stuff. So all those things, I had like a pretty big community around me and some really tight friendships. Like people that are probably listening to this, they know who they are, like, just really, really good friends and very close with my family. So I had a pretty tight knit tribe. And it was, I think one of the most challenging things for me was like considering leaving that behind to venture out into the unknown where I didn't have that. And what I found, I think probably like the most profound thing is that I found like once I got outside that comfort zone, it's not that I was like uncomfortable with who I was by any means, but I was able to kind of like step out of a mold, maybe that I, just kind of thought I was in this box, and I got out of that box and I found out I was pretty comfortable outside that box. And I kind of grew into a little bit more of who I really, really wanted to be. So yeah, I think that was, it definitely took stepping outside my country, getting outside these groups, and like, meeting people from other corners of the world to learn new ways of thinking and expand the horizon, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess like you said, it is kind of cliche, but it is true that when you're traveling and you're meeting, I think it's really the people that you meet along the way, and expanding your, scope of what's possible is really what changes you as a person in a good way, in a very good way.
Almost always in a good way. Like I meet very few people who have these experiences and come back like, having regressed. And it's been some of the most rewarding, as I do have these like amazing tight relationships that will be lifelong friends and family that I'll always be in touch with. And at the same time, like I've been able to connect with people around the world from so many different cultures and learn so much, about their individual places, but languages, customs, just different ways of thinking. Like it's been so incredibly enriching and rewarding. And there's just no way you get all that, just by staying put. I mean, it's one of the things that kind of flies under the radar. It's awesome to go sightseeing, and it's awesome to go on vacation and sit in these beautiful places. But those are some of the real like rich aspects, I think, of kind of stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also staying longer in places, really allowing yourself to fully immerse as much as you possibly can, is much more rewarding as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's something that I feel like I hope people like yourself and myself like will take the opportunity to do more of. That's what I really craved. I loved traveling, but I was always like this a week, 2 weeks, whatever, like that leaves me like just wanting more. Like I don't feel fulfilled by that. I just like want more. And I think working towards like actually being fulfilled and like settling, I've always said, like, I want to be in a place long enough to where I get bored there.
Yeah. And it can take a while, I think, in some places.
Yeah.
I always see it kind of a little bit like I'm trying on different lifestyles for size. I'm like, how does this one feel? I think the only con that I feel with this is that sometimes being every day, multiple times a day, I just get a flashback. I'm like, man, I could be sitting in a reggae bar on an island in Thailand. Like, I miss that Hannah. Or like, I miss Hannah on a road trip in America. I miss Hannah living in Guatemala. I miss, and because it's not that I'm different in those places, but it brings out different things in me, and I miss them, and I miss those aspects. And then I'm like, man, I just have like perpetual FOMO, be everywhere, but I'm here. So sometimes I struggle to be present. So that's something I'm really working on right now. But yeah, that's probably the only con. I wouldn't say it's a bad con, because I could just jump on a flight. Yeah,
you're totally speaking my language right now. This is when you said multiple times per day. Like my wife and I have this conversation probably with every single meal. Like we're just like the FOMO is so real. And I mean, this is a great example. Like we're up here in Germany in the Black Forest, like green, it's mountainous. It's literally exactly what we wanted. A break from like the Mediterranean lifestyle and the heat and the arid landscape and the beach and all of that's beautiful. But we wanted something like the opposite of that. And like a couple months in, we're like, I mean, you see these pictures of these Greek islands? Like that looks pretty cool.
So I'm curious, are you one of those people who like tries to redesign your life with your partner? So like, I'm always like, if we move here, we could do this, and then we get so into that idea for a few days and then we drop it. We're like, nah, next.
Yep. If I could just quantify the wasted energy on that, then like I would have built like Starlink myself or something like that. I've invested so much in these meaningless conversations where I'm like, we're definitely 100% moving to Patagonia like next month. Like let's do it. We've got everything figured out. Never mind. Greece is calling.
Change your mind. I don't think it's wasted. I think dreaming is never wasted. And that's really what it is. And having someone who's really excited to do that with you, I think is really cool.
It does make it all the difference in the world. At least you know you're not the only crazy one.
Yeah, because friends and family are like, yeah, you won't do that. I'm like, let me dream.
And they also don't want to hear about your FOMO. They're like, shut up. Like, you know.
So yeah, it looks like we both got ourselves a partner who enjoys that.
Yeah, that is really, really key and very helpful for sure. So I'm also, it makes me feel good to know that we're not alone in this, that you're sharing in those quote unquote struggles.
I think you know Mitko, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking the other day and partner Sarah was like, I love that you're same as us, because every time we talk, I'm like, so we're going to see you in Mexico City in February. Like, no, we're going to Valencia. Or like, yeah, we're going to Mexico now. No, we're going to Germany now. Like, every time we talk, like, where are we going to meet? But yeah, they're having the same.
That's really funny because Mitko and I were just talking texting the other day, like trying to coordinate a meetup in Valencia. And I'm pretty sure the conversation went exactly like that. Like, well, I don't know if we'll be there. We might. It could be. I mean, we're thinking about it, but we may be here. And it's perpetual.
Yeah. I just told him like 2 days ago that we're going to Germany. And then Sarah was like, okay, Mitko just said flights are 2 hours to Frankfurt. So it's a long way away.
It's going to happen. Well, maybe between the three couples of us here, we can triangulate a time to meet up. We'll be here. I know Mitko and I have plans to try to get together. You guys are making plans with Sarah. So we've got a possibility here. But you're bringing your pup. And they've just gone digital nomad with the pup as well. Something's brewing here. Hannah, this has been so much fun. I know we could probably just keep chit-chatting for a while, but you have 20,000 people to train and clients of your own. So I'm gonna let you get out of here. We do have a tradition here on About Abroad, a fairly new tradition, where previous guest has left you a question. They didn't know it was going to be you. They've just left a question for the next guest. And so I'm going to find that question right now, read it to you, and you will do the same for the next guest.
The pressure is on. I'm sweating.
The pressure's on. Yeah, I didn't warn you about this. I'm undecided if I should or not. Maybe I should start warning people, but all right, here we go. So this one is actually really short and simple. What is your why, based on Simon Sinek's Start With Why?
My why is absolute freedom. Doing what I want, when I want, how I want, and in a good way, and giving that to other people.
You feel like you've obtained that, or do you have further to go down that path?
I feel like I've obtained it. I feel like, yes, of course, there's always limitations in life, but I have this deep-seated knowing that things will work out for me. And it's taken a long time for me to get to that place. Mm-hmm. And it's, instead of wanting things, it's expecting things to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that. I think especially for people going through, we were talking about that like transition that people are going through right now. Yeah. And one of the most intangible and seemingly useless bits of advice someone might get right now, but I swear it is useful, is figuring out your why and then putting that at the center of everything. And just say, if it's location independence and flexibility, put that at the center and then figure everything else around that. Yeah.
Everything will fall around it once you believe that it's possible for you as well.
Yeah. And start expecting it, not just like praying and wishing for it, but like expect that it can happen. And then if you want to be a VA, you just go take Hannah's course and then that will get it there for you. On that note, where can people follow along and learn more? We'll place links and social handles and all of that in the show notes. But while people are listening, we should mention that for them.
Sure. Digital Nomad Kit, that's KIT, Digital Nomad KIT.com, or on Instagram or anywhere. That's my name everywhere. You can find all my stuff.
Nice and easy. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. This was a lot of fun. I do hope we can triangulate that puppy meetup and puppy nomad meetup. We'll have to come up with a cool name for that. Thank you so much, Hannah. This was great.
Thank you for having me. It was great. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in today from wherever you are in the world. Once again, I'm Chase, and this has been another episode of About Abroad. For those of you wondering how you can best support the show, I have made it super simple for you. Just go over to the show notes of the episode that you just finished listening to and click on one of the two following links. aboutabroad.com/newsletter to get our monthly newsletter, no spam, guaranteed, or ratethispodcast.com/aboutabroad, where you can quickly and easily leave a review for the show. It's not just important to me, it also helps more wanderers just like you find us. Finally, don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform of choice, and we will see you again next week. Thanks again. Hasta luego, amigos.